So my favorite argument for God's existence is that I believe in free will. Okay, the reason that I think this is an argument for God's existence is because if you believe that human beings are essentially just balls of meat wandering around aimlessly in the universe, the kind of Spinoza's stone that thinks that it was moving of its own accord but actually was thrown, if you believe that and you don't believe in free will, then there's an internal coherence and logic to it. If you believe that you have the ability to make independent choices, that you can actually supersede your own biological drives and the environment around you to any extent, even to the smallest extent, this means that you believe in something that can't actually be proved by science, but that you are living every single day. And the notion that you have that will, and not only that you have that will, but that that will is capable of comprehending the universe around you, that your will is sort of, your ideas, your ability to comprehend the universe is a reflection of a reality, of an objective truth that is out there, that says to me that there is a God, there's a common source that stands behind that objective truth and stands behind the mind that can comprehend that truth.
There's two reasons why I think that's idiocy. The first reason is that essentially he's just making a God of the gaps argument because we don't understand what consciousness is. We don't understand what generates consciousness. But we do actually understand a little bit about the decision-making process. And we know that a lot of times what we think of as decisions being made by our conscious brain are really made on some deeper subconscious, level. And then the conscious basically pops up and justifies them post hoc, but makes it feel as if we're deciding it in the moment. So a lot of the things that we consider choices being made by our conscious brains, that's actually kind of an illusion. And a lot of scientists in the fields of neuroscience will tell you that to a great extent, the concept of the self is largely illusory. A lot of people have asked me, hey, where do you do your live streams? And the answer to that is that I do live streams called Abandon Hope every Sunday on the Pessimist Productions Patreon. That is linked down below. There is all sorts of other stuff on that Patreon as well. It is about $7 a month, and I think that we offer a pretty generous amount of content in exchange for that membership. So if that's something that interests you, be sure to check out the Patreon link in the description section of this video. The second reason I hate this argument is because it hinges on free will, which is one of the most boring topics in the universe to me. I think that the reason Ben Shapiro likes this argument so much is because if you evoke free will, everyone feels as if they have free will, but that's all it is. It's a feeling. And, this is a guy who is constantly made his name. I don't know how often he still says it anymore, but back in the day, it used to be his little catchphrase that facts don't care about your feelings. That was his refrain, his mantra. Facts don't care about your feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings. But here he is, saying that his favorite argument for the premise that God created everything and that we should all be worshiping him and that we all need to follow him is a feelings-based argument, because we have the feeling of free will. We all feel as if we're in the driver's seat controlling things. But just because we feel that doesn't make it true. Now, because there are so many things we don't understand about consciousness, I think it's you can't really fully say that we understand the nature of choice. We understand the nature of what is quote unquote free will. To what extent does that exist, if at all? A lot of people philosophically will say, no, it does not exist. A lot of people neuroscientifically will say, no, I don't think it exists. But there's so much we don't understand about the brain that we can't quite fully just rubber stamp it's fake. But I mean, the feeling of I have free will is every bit as irrational as the feeling of certainty. Another thing these people love. They love that, oh, I'm certain of it. I'm certain of it. They say that like their certainty should mean something to me. Your certainty means nothing to me, because your certainty is nothing more than an emotion that you have. Plenty of people have been absolutely certain of things that are absolutely false, right? I'm absolutely certain there's a God, or I'm absolutely certain there's an Allah. Well, I'm absolutely certain there is no God. I mean, like, all these ideas, oh, certain, certain, certain. I'm just certain about something that I don't actually have any evidence for. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, even though I sometimes have feelings of certainty, intellectually I know that I am not certain of anything. I am not certain that I physically exist in this realm right now. I could be a brain in a vat. I could be, just like somehow an entity of pure thought that has just imagined this entire reality. I don't think that's what's happening. I'm not a solipsist, but I can't prove that that's not what's happening. And I have to be open to the possibility of that because that could be the truth. I don't think it is, but it could be. So even though I occasionally am overtaken by the irrational feeling of certainty, I understand intellectually there is no certainty. And I understand intellectually that there is a feeling of free will, but that doesn't mean that free will is a real thing. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's not either, but ultimately the question doesn't matter much to me because whether I have free will or I don't have free will, I have the perception of free will, but that's all it is. The perception of free will demonstrates that you have the perception of free will. It doesn't demonstrate that you actually have free will. And so using that as a basis for the argument for God, absurd. I just thought of a third thing that there's really a problem with here too. It's very possible that it could turn out that we do have free will, but there is no God, right? Why is God the only mechanism that could give us free will? There's really no reason why, right? There's plenty of other things that could be conceived of in the human imagination that could be responsible for free will. That doesn't necessarily have to be a God. So, I mean, this just completely fails on every level. And Ben Shapiro, once again, is a moron. But, you know, he's not a moron, actually. He's actually a brilliant grifter. Because I'm sure that he knows all this stuff I just said. I don't think for a second that Ben Shapiro is incapable of coming up with the stuff that I just put forth. I do think he's incapable of refuting it, but that's fine. Because ultimately, he doesn't need to be smarter than me. He just needs to be smarter than the dumb fucks that listen to him. And unfortunately, there's a lot of those. So... pretty pitiful argument from Ben Shapiro based on a lot of emotions, a lot of irrationality. But then again, what do you expect? The only arguments for God are irrational because God itself is an irrational premise.